Now that Mike Vrabel is the new head coach in New England, who is he going to try and track down in free agency to help the Patriots on offense and on defense? Because let's be honest, we had a bottom-of-the-barrel defense and an even worse total offense this last year under Covington, Mayo, and AVP. Now we're still pending a new OC. DeMarcus Covington is still currently our DC, but Vrabel is the man with all of the connections. But now he has to take over a roster that unfortunately wasn't that high up in terms of talent. And New England does have 17 players that are set to hit the free agent market this season. We'll talk a little bit later on whether or not they should keep some of those guys or let them walk. But this is a really, really good year in terms of top talent in the free agency market to come to New England. Why? We can guarantee you money with $130 million in cap space. We can guarantee players playing time because our roster is terrible. So I do think now that we have established a head coach, I think now is when the fun really, really starts. So before I hop into my top targets on offense and on defense for New England, who do you guys want to sign in free agency? And I know it's going to be extremely hard to get through this without talking about Tee Higgins, but that is who we're going to break down first here, and I know a lot of you guys are going to say that. But I just want to keep in mind that New England right now is not the sexiest destination for a lot of players out there that are looking to win right now. I'm not saying that the new New England can't have a winning record this upcoming year, but coming off of last season, we really don't have much to offer them, except we have a second-team All-Pro DB in Christian Gonzalez. We have a future of our franchise in Drake May, and now you have Mike Vrabel. So don't be surprised if big names like Tee Higgins may want to go somewhere where a culture is already established. And I really like this quote here from Antonio Gibson. He did say this prior to Gerard Mayo being fired, but he said, I don't feel like we've had the season to say we'll attract anything right now. Once again, that was before the Week 18 finale. I did hear that players don't want to come here, but it's not that bad. My family loves it. The culture's not bad. It's been nice. And if Antonio Gibson really liked playing in a Patriots uniform last year and would do it again, and that was during the losing record and having Gerard Mayo as your head coach, now that you have Vrabel, who does have experience and connections and can network and is going to rebrand the culture in the locker room and out on the field, I do think there is some attraction to some free agents out there. Whether they'll be the top ones or not, I do think New England is going to see a shakeup, and it's going to be for the better. So let's go on ahead and talk about number one on not just the Patriots' radar, but everybody's radar, Tee Higgins. There have been some sources that he may want to stay in Cincinnati, and I don't blame him. He's had that connection with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase since he entered the NFL. But there have been other reports that he wants to cut ties with Cincinnati. So ultimately, right now, it seems a bit to be hot and cold with his situation with the Bengals. But he is the top wide receiver in free agency, so I do think he's going to be open to listening to possible teams reaching out to him saying, hey, if you do want to leave the Bengals, here's what we can offer you. And he did recently play on a $21.8 million franchise tag, and he wanted to leave Cincinnati before the last season even started. But he decided to stay, and it worked out pretty well for Higgins in the long run. Chad Graff, The Athletic, saying, look, New England's going to be all in on T. And now that we have Vrabel, who knows how to talk to players, and he knows what he can offer them to come to New England under his reign, I do think he'll be able to sweet-talk them in the right position for T to be at least be interested in the Patriots. But Graff went on to say, they've shown an interest in established receivers, and Higgins is the best free agent. I expect them to offer him the moon. The question is whether he says yes or no. And before you guys say, well, if they offer him X amount of dollars, he's destined to come to New England. Wrong. We reportedly offered Brandon Ayuk the most amount of money in free agency, but yet he's still re-signed with the 49ers. But when you look at a guy like Higgins, you're not going to get a wide receiver one coming out of Cincinnati. He would automatically be your wide receiver one in New England, But still, that's something that Tee Higgins is going to decide if he wants for himself. Look at a Chris Godwin. He's really established himself being a top 2 wide receiver in Tampa Bay and really fits in well as a larger slot guy. Higgins may like his role of not particularly getting every single pass, but definitely being involved in every single route, every single play. So now my question to you guys is, do you want Tee Higgins? I know that you want Tee Higgins. I want Tee Higgins. But I don't know if Tee Higgins wants New England. And that is the circumstance that we do run into. Go on ahead and type T in the comment section down below if you guys haven't already. And do not worry, I have 3 more top targets. And one of them is a wide receiver that I do think, regardless if they go after Higgins or not, they should at least give a call and try to make some sort of deal happen with him as well. But before I do that, I want to talk to you guys about Game Time. This is the #1 way I get tickets to any sporting event, any concert, comedy show, or maybe even the theater. If you guys are looking to save $1, download Game Time. This is the lowest price guaranteed, and with their new feature, Game Time Picks, it makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out all the fluff to make sure you guys are getting the best seats with the best deals. That way you don't have to spend time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. The other month, my boyfriend's brother and sister-in-law, that's a mouthful, came into town. We'd never been to a professional hockey game. I got us tickets. I got 4 tickets for under $100 because Game Time pointed out with Game Time Picks that this little section, great seats, great price, and I got a nice little 10% discount on those tickets. Why? Because Game Time. You can also see the view from your seat before you buy in the app. Nice little 180 virtual panoramic view. So you guys are looking to go watch the Boston Celtics, the new New England Patriots, the Boston Bruins, maybe even the Boston Red Sox. If you're into that sort of thing, go Yankees. You guys can go on ahead, download the Game Time app today. Use promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first time buying tickets while terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app today. Use promo code CHATSPORTS. That'll get you $20 off your first time buying tickets while terms apply. Download Game Time. What time is it? It is game time. Unfortunately, it is no longer game time for the Vikings. They shit the bed 2 weeks in a row, and that does lead us to Cam Robinson. You now get to look at the Vikings offseason, and that will obtain Christian Darrisaw back to their roster. The reason why they went out and seeked a guy like Cam Robinson was because Darrisaw had a season-ending injury. And I'll be honest, I was not that impressed with Robinson in Minnesota. But prior to that, in Jacksonville, he was the 19th best free agent per Bleacher Report. He allowed the 8th lowest pressure rate in Jacksonville. Once again, Minnesota didn't really suit him well. At the end of the season, Verdarian Lowe allowed less amount of pressures than Cam Robinson did for Sam Darnold. And we all saw that playoff game. 9 sacks on Sam Darnold. It's like the Ferris Bueller scale where it's like 9 times. But once again, take the good with the bad. He fit better in Jacksonville, didn't really fit well in Minnesota, which is making me believe that Minnesota is not going to want to re-sign Cam Robinson. But overall, when you're looking at his PFF grades, the #1 reason why I want Robinson on the line for Drake May is this number right here. For the love of God, we need pass blocking. And when Mike Vrabel says we are going to become a passing efficient team, you look at 70 and above pass blocking grades to help one of the strongest arms in the 2023 NFL rookie class. And knowing that before he went to Minnesota and he was in Jacksonville, he signed a 3-year, $55 million deal with the Jaguars. So you can offer him maybe about $10 million less. He's getting a little bit older, and obviously Minnesota wasn't his best outing. So I do think you could get him for a whopping $45 million on a 3-year deal, and he'd be satisfied with that. So my question for you guys is, Patriots should sign which offensive line free agent? Because let me tell you, I love Will Campbell, also love Kelvin Banks Jr., but a part of me really wants that veteran leadership, that NFL experience blocking for Drake May. But let's go back to a Drake May target. Chris Godwin. This is a wide receiver I want if Mr. Higgins says no. And we should expect Mr. Higgins to say no because Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Calvin Ridley were all swings and misses last free agency. And guess what? We put all of our eggs into those baskets. When you look at Chris Godwin, you are going to get a top wide receiver who could be your top wide receiver one, but let's say maybe you pair him with a Tedero and McMillan. A 6'5" wideout still allows Chris Godwin to be that internal slot, which he does suit very well for, going with Mike Evans in Tampa Bay right now. Another reason you could possibly get Chris Godwin for a very good deal is because he's coming off an injury. So some teams may not be as attracted to him because he does come with some rehab baggage. And what he did in 7 games, shits on what any of our receivers did in 17 games, which is extremely unfortunate. Pop Douglas, I do love Demario Douglas. I think he is that accelerate after catch type of wide receiver, but I don't really love his height. Why? Because Drake May tends to be a little bit inaccurate and will throw ahead and above targets. So with Pop Douglas not being the tallest guy out there, it does make it super unfortunate for that connection. Jalen Polk, well, he's also a bust. So maybe we can see next year what Polk can do, but I think you need to really beef up your wide receivers. And knowing that Tee Higgins is going to be on everybody's radar, Chris Godwin will still be on teams' radars, but maybe not as much because of the injury and because he's paired with Mike Evans and everybody's looking at Evans. So now my last question for you guys before I move into my final free agent target, which positions should the Patriots sign in free agency? Are we looking at OL, DL, wide receiver, running back maybe, even one that doesn't fumble? Go on ahead, let me know in the comment section down below. Along with Higgins, you're going to get a guy like Trey Smith, who is probably one of the sexiest attributes to a team's offense, but he's going to be a very, very hot commodity in free agency. And I do not know if a guy like Trey Smith or Tee Higgins would want to come to New England. Respectfully, we don't have too much to offer him because of how bad our season was last year. He's a top 10 guard per PFF, but we also know they did recently deal with blood clots. We just dealt with that with Christian Barmore. Obviously not something you can prevent. It just sort of happens when you've got some bigger guys in the team and their bodies are moving this certain type of way, but it is something to keep an eye on when teams are looking at them. They do also come with a bit of rehab baggage. And then Trey Smith, I mean, look at this sorry-ass offensive line. Holy cow. Mike Onwenu is the only player that would possibly be a starter in the NFL if he wasn't on New England's offensive line. Everybody else would either be working at Amazon or they would be on the practice squad for a NFL football team. And that's extremely unfortunate that we gave Drake May this offensive line. Verdarian Lowe was his own Achilles heel in terms of penalties. Same thing with DeMontre Jacobs, who I hope we never see in a Patriots uniform again. Ben Brown, we picked him up off the waiver wire. But now you're getting Cole Strange back. David Andrews wants to return in 2025. Mike Onwenu coming back. Caden Wallace, Leighton Robinson. Last year's picks on the offensive line. If you go out and get just one good offensive lineman, you can fill in the gaps as you go along. And I do think Cam Robinson and Trey Smith would be a phenomenal addition to a very sorry offensive line that we gifted the rookie with for his first year. And if anything does happen in New England, I will talk about it right here on Patriots Today by Chat Sports. You guys do not want to miss this offseason, and I want to give it to you guys for free. Go on ahead and hit that sub button for me.